All right, so thanks for tuning in, guys. We're back with Jack from Raw Physio, and today we're going to have a quick chat about just some considerations for heading back into the gym now that we're in Perth, Western Australia, and phase 2 is kicking in. So we are allowed to slowly start trickling into the gym. So we want to be prepared for that as best we can. So, how are you going, Jack?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Yeah, had a little bit of a quieter week this week, so it's nice to actually get some of my own training in, and then so I'm not having such a rude shock to the system next week, like I'm sure a bunch of us are about to experience.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a pretty big transition from going from minimal weights or body weight training to being able to lift stuff again.
yeah, and I think there'll be a fair few considerations we can maybe get stuck into and kind of flesh those out a little bit more.
I think it's probably wise because I've already seen plenty
Yeah,
of the posts on social media, and there's some people that are really itching to get in there.
yeah,
And
fair enough.
probably one of the big concerns is people trying to pick up where they left off.
Yeah,
Do you have any advice to someone that's probably likely to try and do that?
yeah, definitely. I think, well, first of all, most injuries or training-related pain comes about from doing too much too soon after doing too little for too long. So a lot of people for the last 6 weeks have been a bit hamstrung by their environment or what equipment they have. So there's going to be a lot of shift and load over the next couple of weeks if we do get back into that kind of full gym swing or full classes and resistance exercise. So going to be really mindful of how hard and how fast you go into it. This was a big issue for the AIS a few years ago. So the Australian Institute of Sport, over their season breaks for their athletes, they noticed that whenever someone kind of came back after their Christmas break or their long break, that they tended to break down over the first few weeks. So what they did a bit more research, and they tended to find that if someone had been able to maintain their training load pretty close to what they were normally doing, they only needed a week or two to break themselves in to get back into their full training. Whereas if you've been doing, maybe only 40% or even less than that, it could take you 4 to 6 weeks before you can really actually start crunching those numbers again and getting back to where you were before the bigger break. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think that's a massive
Yeah.
one because I think even I've only ever played sport recreationally, so I'm not at that level.
Yeah.
When you get back into preseason training and that after that first session,
Oh God, yeah.
you're extremely sore, and
100%.
you start questioning why you ever bothered going in the first place. But I think
Yeah.
that's essentially where a lot of people. It's almost like going back to the beginning, because I mean, for the regulars that have been, you know, in that steady routine for years or even less than that, you can kind of forget what it was like to start out. And in those
Yeah.
first sort of 2 weeks of
Low
being
into a
introduced to
false
the gym,
sense of
where
security.
yeah, exactly. I remember myself, first 2 weeks in the gym, um, thinking that I was going okay, and then all of a sudden it just hit you like a ton of bricks, and you're sore everywhere, and you sort of become aware of muscles you didn't know you had. I think that is going to hit some of the more experienced people again.
Yeah,
It's going to be
exactly.
interesting. Um,
Yeah.
and I think soreness is going to be expected. I don't think anyone's going to need to chase it because it's probably, if you haven't been able to train to the same levels you used to, you're probably going to experience that getting back into it. So,
Definitely.
are there any things that I suppose in the build up phases, getting back into it, that you'd recommend?
Yeah. I think I think well, yeah, like chasing soreness is a really bad indicator for work level in the first
Yeah,
place.
agree.
So just because you've gone and done your first big leg session, you've got wicked DOMs and you can't sit down for 6 days, doesn't necessarily mean you did yourself a world of good. It was probably maybe fun while it lasted, but just so people are aware of that, if you're going to be sore, don't make yourself so sore. It doesn't mean, I mean, you can only get this much out of adaptation, out of exercise. If you do this much, this is just wasted time
Yeah.
for you to recover.
So that's perfect. That's exactly what I want to hear too,
Exactly.
because I think and this applies to somebody who's not been in the gym routine before as well, and they're just wanting to get back into
Yeah.
it. Is that
100%.
like how sore you are after a workout isn't how we judge the success of it. I think
No.
it's about getting that adaptation, which takes time, and we
Yeah.
don't want to cram 3 months worth of training into a 45-minute
Yeah.
block. So
Exactly. 100%. And that's the other thing is don't rob yourself of the opportunity to adapt. Don't try and, like you said, force 3 months of training into the first few weeks. This is an awesome opportunity for your body just to go, like, take a step back. Here's my baseline, and just actually milk all that adaptation. Just keep chipping away at it. Let your body adjust, and that nervous system and your muscles and your tendons readjust to everything. So that when you get to the heavy stuff, all of a sudden you're adapting like crazy. You're getting stronger, faster, fitter, and having more weight loss instead of just smashing yourself at this point when your body's then going to adapt to that. It's going to be much harder to get to those higher and higher levels. Does that sort of make sense?
yeah, absolutely. It makes sense to me. Like, I think,
Yeah, yeah,
I suppose, I'm not the one we need to convince, but I think
yeah, yeah, yeah,
we,
yeah,
I think that's probably something that I have been trying to communicate to a lot of people that I see
yeah.
when they're getting introduced to the gym. So I think, like, the whole kind of point of this talk is to almost reintroduce that idea to people that have been here for a while, or
Mm,
if it's a case of you know you haven't been allowed to go to the gym, so now you want to start. Well, I mean,
yeah,
you might have to wait a little bit longer, but it's still going to be a good idea for you. So
yeah,
this is what you should know. I
yeah,
think. What about if we're looking at? I know recommendations are going to be so
yeah.
different, and they're a guide. They're not a you
Mm,
know follow to the T exact sort of thing.
yeah.
But any sort of load jumps week to week that we should be aware of or stay
Mhm.
within?
I think like using so for your first few sessions back, use them as a bit of a way to figure out where you're at, a bit of a yardstick. Me personally, I would just do a week or two's worth of movement sessions. I would strip the bar back or the weights back to 50% of what I was doing pre-break, and I would just move, and I would see how my body reacts to that. Like I said, you're still probably going to end up pulling up a little bit of soreness in those muscles. Tendons and joints might be a little bit grumpy from being loaded in different positions, and that's okay. So you don't need to smash yourself then. Like strip back your back squat, just do a couple of sets of 10, those moderate sort of numbers, and then just see how the body feels and your basic movement patterns. And then from there, once you've got a bit of a yardstick of, I can tolerate 70% quite comfortably of what I was previously doing, then I'll just try and chip away at, somewhere maybe 5-10% is usually pretty good. Um, if you're on your higher sort of, so for example, if your back squat 1 RM is 100 kilos, you strip it back to 50 kilos, do a couple of sets and reps to kind of over the first few weeks to warm up and get your body moving again. And then maybe increasing that by 5 or 10%. So that might be, two and a
Yep.
half to five, maybe up to 10 kilos a week. But if you're only working on a bicep curl and it's 10 kilos was your max, and now you're using 5 kilos, don't use 5 and 10% because you'll
Yep.
increase by a couple of grams a week, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Of course.
It's just going to be practical about it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, trying to use those sort of numbers. I think it's pretty safe to jump 10, even 20% if you're trying to push up, if you're trying to peak for something in particular. But I don't think anyone's going to be doing that with not too much sport on the horizon. But I guess it's coming back into it as well. So if you're
Yeah.
in a rush,
That's right.
you might be able to push up a little bit higher, 20% even, because your body still does have a memory of what you used to do, but your muscles and joints and tendons might be a little bit more grumpy.
Yeah. 100%. I think we're sort of in a spot where it's still going to be some time before we can get back to normal. Like
Yeah,
we're not there yet, but we need to take the time to get ourselves into it. Like it's a build
yeah,
up. You need to make sure that you pay attention to that properly, and that means
exactly.
using those smaller plates, not just whacking on the big
Yeah,
ones. Which it's pretty easy to do when you're used to it,
yeah,
or you don't know better. I think
mm,
the big plates sort of satisfy the ego a little bit, and they can,
definitely.
yeah, mentally you think, yeah, I can do it, and then it generally is in the bottom of the squat, or when the bar's sitting on your chest in a bench press and you figure out probably wasn't the best idea.
Yeah, I think it's another good opportunity to work on your technique. If you've been that person that's like, maybe doing a little bit of ego lifting with some progressively dodgier technique over the last couple of months, this is a super good opportunity to just strip that bar back, do some pauses, do some slow eccentrics and tempo squats and tempo bench, and just get that bar path in. And this is going to actually help to prevent injuries in the future and also take that cap off your performance. That was probably there because your technique wasn't as efficient or as maybe aesthetic as it could be as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So I think like understanding what is easy and making sure
Yeah,
like you have, so if you're going to use that sort of um, perceived exertion scale, like
yeah,
a 1 to 10
yeah,
across, understanding what those smaller numbers are for a little bit,
yeah.
and getting a good grasp of that, and then you can use like techniques like Jack said, like your tempos and things
Mm,
to adjust intensity rather than adding lots of load. That's probably
100%.
a perfect opportunity for it for a lot of people, I think.
Exactly. Like I said, don't rob your future self of gains.
Yeah,
Let yourself now slowly bump up, let your nervous system adapt, and you're gonna be better off for it.
we've already been robbed of a few months of gains, so let's not
Yeah,
do us
exactly.
do us
Don't shoot yourself
anymore.
in the foot now and then be limping all the rest of the way through the year. It's no good.
100%. Because I mean, like, yeah, you look at like everything's been affected, which is been difficult, but it also makes it a little bit easier that no one's been targeted.
Yeah,
It's everybody. So every competition everywhere has been
exactly.
wiped out for a bit, and
Yeah,
that just means that we've got more time to prepare, mentally and physically. So
yeah,
um, yeah, just don't jump the gun, essentially.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you know in yourself. You know when you're doing something dumb.
Yeah,
Everyone knows. Everyone knows when you've just put a couple extra kilos on the bar and you've gone. That little voice in the back of your head goes, should I, shouldn't I? Sometimes it's time to push the button and test that mental toughness and that resilience. The next 4 to 6 weeks probably aren't that time.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but you're more than welcome to try and just see what happens.
Yeah, it would just not off. It's not our advice to do that
No,
though.
it's not really my best advice,
No,
but
yeah,
hey, just see how you go.
yeah. I think yeah. I'm always gonna err on the side of caution with these sort of things. And
Yeah.
partly because I think while lifting and getting stronger and improving ourselves in this way is important and it's an important part of our lives, it's not all that we have. We have
Mm.
other things that we need to be able to go and do. So
Yeah,
if
yeah,
we're
yeah.
risking injury or extreme soreness just to
Mm.
chase that extra couple of kilos in a squat, is that sort of cost to benefit ratio good enough to you know
Yeah, exactly.
that
More than
sacrifice
opportunity
not
cost.
being able to get the shopping in the car or whatever it might be you need to do for the rest of the
Yeah,
day.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Just come down to opportunity cost. If
Hmm.
it's going to cost you more, to have this, is it really worth it?
Yeah,
I
and
usually not.
that's pretty
But I'm
much
a movement
what it comes
optimist
down
as
to.
well. Yeah,
Yeah,
like I'm optimistic. You'll probably be fine, but for how long?
yeah, and
You know?
that's generally how it works too. Is that you'll get away with it until you don't.
Yeah, yeah. I think I've told you about researching cricket fast bowlers. They go off the back of a test. They don't break in the test. They break 4 weeks later.
Hmm.
That's when all these things pop up. Like you can get away with it for a week, maybe if you're lucky, you get away for a month if you're really trying to break these load rules and just push yourself. But eventually, it'll start to probably catch up with you.
Yeah, and that's a great point. So I think a lot of people will. It's funny when they do break down, and it'll be doing something really like innocuous, like getting
Yeah,
getting out of the car to fill it up or
yeah,
something, and all of a sudden your back goes, and you think it wasn't getting out of your car because you do that all the time. Like
no,
your body's quite capable of
exactly.
doing that. It's generally what's happened in the weeks leading up to that. And that
Yeah,
was just
exactly.
the tiniest bit of movement in whatever way. It didn't like it,
Yeah,
but you can't blame that movement. It was
no,
the lead up to it.
exactly. It was all those previous decisions.
Yeah, and it's easy for us to forget that too. So I think this is sort of
Oh,
the
definitely.
perfect opportunity to bring a bit of mindfulness into it, and
Mm,
and really like it's a skill to be able to control your ego a little bit
yeah,
and adjust your load accordingly. Um, and it's probably the best opportunity anyone's ever had to sort of
yeah,
train that part of yourself.
Yeah,
is
it's a
the
fair playing field, like you said. Everyone's
yeah,
in the same boat,
bring a
which
bit of
is a good
mindfulness back.
opportunity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. All right, wicked. Is there anything else you'd probably add to that, or is that pretty much covering it?
It's just being aware that even if you have been able to commit to your like pre-COVID training with body weight and being able to kind of keep up the intensity of your training, I think we talked about this before. Don't compare apples to oranges. Your resistance training through full range of motion with weight on your back, like a squat or deadlift, something like that, is still different to a kettlebell swing or running or bodyweight squats. So just even if you're feeling strong, just be mindful. Give yourself a little bit of time to adapt to that new training, that old new training.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's actually a great point because we saw that massive sort of rise in buying equipment for the home gym
Yeah,
setup in a lot of people when there's a big rush. Um,
yeah,
and it's unrealistic to think that everybody was able to get a full gym's set up at home.
yeah,
So if you have been able to relatively replicate your normal training, but using
yeah,
different tools, it's still different loading.
yeah,
Like a kettlebell squat, or goblet squat versus barbell back squat.
yeah,
It adds different force to your joints and your body. So you need to you need to adjust. Like it's not the
yeah,
same.
exactly.
All
Yeah,
these
exactly.
variations have subtle differences in what they do to you. So even though it's still a
Mm,
squat, you got to adjust.
exactly. But
But
yeah, I think that's all I would say. I think we've kind of covered it all there almost.
beauty. All right. Well,
Yeah.
thanks again for today, man.
No,
Glad
no
you're doing
bullshit.
well.
Yeah,
Everything's kicking on now that we're getting over this. So fingers crossed it stays heading that way.
yeah, not too long now, and then we can all get stuck back into hopefully a bit more regular life. Get the
Yeah.
food back.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for today, man. We'll see you next time.
No, thanks again. See you, mate.
All right.